Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes, episode 26. We revisit Mahmood versus Taylor. At the heart of this Supreme Court case is parental rights, LGBTQ curriculum, and the power of the opt-out. This case has sent shockwaves through classrooms and courtrooms across the country. The plaintiffs were Muslim and Christian, black, white, Latino, liberal and conservative, parents from every walk of life who found common ground in one explosive legal battle. Was this a victory for freedom or a smokescreen for intolerance? Are schools educating our kids or indoctrinating them? And most importantly, who gets to decide what your kids are taught? Mid-Maryland Votes. We don't pull punches, we don't pick parties, and we don't pretend the culture war isn't knocking on your front door. Now let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
The court case for the audience.
Absolutely. What it is that there's a group of parents that sued Montgomery County Public Schools because there was the transgender curriculum and the parents wanted to opt their children out of the curriculum, something that has always been the case previously. But then in 2023, Montgomery County Public School Board said no, opt-outs cannot happen anymore. And as a result, it went to trial and made its way to the Supreme Court, and we just had the ruling on it a few days ago.
Okay, a couple clarifications also for the case. Number one, the curriculum was designed for first to third graders. The suit, Mamoud, is actually three separate families that sued the Taylor, who was the superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools. The families were a very diverse group of both religion, race, creed, and color. So it was a very interesting case in that way. It was a Muslim family, a Roman Catholic family, and a Orthodox Jewish family. So it was interesting that it brought it all together. And now we have a court ruling in just the last few days. And how did the Supreme Court break it down?
Yes. And so one thing you just mentioned, Mark, is that it started in first grade. Actually, the curriculum starts in kindergarten. Yes, so it is 5-year-olds in kindergarten that are being taught LGBT lifestyles. And so, of course, that is what parents were objecting to. And the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of the parents.
Now, the parents sued on the grounds of their First Amendment rights being violated, i.e., religious indoctrination of their children, and how their own rights to raise their children in the religion that they prefer was being infringed on by the Montgomery County Public Schools, enforcing and making it mandatory that their children read certain materials and books that were designed to project a LGBTQ lifestyle.
And that's essentially what the debate was between the various Supreme Court justices, is that the three who were in favor of the Montgomery County Public Schools and did not want to allow the opt-out. What their point was that the material is subtle, and it creates an undue burden upon the schools to accommodate people, students opting out. And of course, on the other side were the 6 justices that were saying, well, actually, it's not subtle, and there are opt-outs everywhere, all the time. It's a perennial part of public school education. So this falls under the same category.
Yeah, and we're going to put a list of the books, or some of the books, pictures of the books, in the comment section, so our readers can make their own determination on whether this is just simply child reading or whether it's indoctrination. We're not going to make that determination today. What we're going to talk about is the Supreme Court's decision, which was 6-3, overwhelmingly on the side of parental rights.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what happened is that the 6 Supreme Court justices, because there were, I guess, 13 books that were included in this. And so what happened is that the Montgomery County Public School System they made LGBT curriculum part of the health curriculum, which is standard. And pretty much all school districts where there is an LGBT curriculum, it's part of the health curriculum. But the health curriculum has a long history of parents being able to opt out of it. The Montgomery County Public School Board decided it was too many parents were opting out, and so they moved it from the health curriculum and officially, legally made it part of the English, the language arts curriculum, and there's much less opt-out abilities that parents have in just your standard reading, writing, math, science, and history classes.
And that really infuriated the parents because they felt like the Montgomery County School Board and Curriculum Superintendent was deliberately placing this material into an area from where it normally resided, which was in health, which they could opt out, into an area that they could not opt their children out without the risk of them failing the school year as a result.
And regardless of how important someone may believe or not believe that having an LGBT curriculum in school is, I think that we can all agree that move, that change was so specific that you kind of have to call a strike and say that yes, it was clearly done because the school board truly did not want parents to opt their children out of this curriculum.
And I think that for our viewers who don't understand the layout of the Maryland counties, certain counties in Maryland, usually the closer you get to the cities and DC, the more liberal the counties are in general. Montgomery County is just north of Washington, D.C., and has a reputation for being a super blue county. And the school board is 100% Democrats.
And one of the Supreme Court justices, Sotomayor, who was one of the three that agreed with the school board, said that allowing this the way that the 6 justices who agreed with the parents did was going to, her words, was going to risk chaos in the schools as a result of empowering parents to be able to potentially take their children out of curriculum in ways that weren't intended even by the 6 justices that agreed with the parents in this case.
The bottom line is that their opinion is that the parental rights, especially in their First Amendment rights to raise their children in the religion and being exposed to what they chose to, was paramount, and it set precedent. And it was precedent under the U.S. Constitution. It is interesting to note that originally the school board won. Then it was appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the arguments, and then they formed their opinion and made their ruling. This is a very, very wide-ranging ruling by the Supreme Court, empowering parental rights across the country.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, what I believe it was Justice Alito was the one who wrote the majority opinion, and one of the things that was discussed during the case, when the attorneys for both sides spoke to all 9 justices, and then they got to justices asked questions and got to talk amongst themselves, was that the assertion that it is from Sotomayor, that justice, that it is subtle, that these are subtle themes. And what the other 6 justices were saying is, well, if you use the example of the one book where it's a child who goes to a pride parade, or I'm sorry, I believe it's that the child goes to a wedding where it's her uncle and it's a same-sex marriage and she feels uncomfortable. And in the book, her feelings of discomfort are discussed, and she is chastised and corrected and told to view this in a positive way. Now, regardless of what your opinions or my opinions or anyone's opinions are of it, what the justice was saying, those 6 justices were saying, is that one, that is not subtle, because what you're doing is you are instructing children on how to view the world. You're not teaching them facts about the world and letting them develop and grow. What you're doing is you are taking on the role of family. You're taking on the role of grandparents and parents. And the school is actually telling that child, no, this is how you will view the world. And that is an overstepping of what the mission of public schools has always been.
Yeah, I've reviewed some of the material, some of the books, and I can tell you that I don't find the books very offensive to me personally. I mean, I don't I mean, what people do in their bedrooms, who they marry, that's that's their right to do whatever they want to. But there is no doubt that when you read the books or you read, the implication from the books, it is, if anybody comes at it from a traditional religious standpoint, they are absolutely chastised. I mean, the books make it very clear that if you're not open to this lifestyle, if you don't embrace this lifestyle, then you are a religious bigot. And that is clear in the books.
Yes, and it actually, even though this case did not necessarily have anything to do with this particular situation, it's very important to understand kind of the connection and what the larger implications are. Because there was a couple years ago, there was an instance in both Frederick County Public Schools and Washington County Public Schools where where they were buying the LGBT curriculum for those school districts from. It was a nonprofit organization that they purchased it from, but the mission of the nonprofit organization, as they put on their filings to the IRS, was to create was to teach children to be activists for progressive causes. That was the literal mission that they wrote for themselves when they handed in their documents to the IRS. And so you can kind of see that there's the danger where it already has gotten to that point, but you can see where schools can truly are in danger of becoming that old adage, right? Indoctrination versus education. And that's really what these justices, I think, were arguing about, was where is the line between the two?
Right. And I think that the fact that the coalition of parents was literally huge. It wasn't just the three families. There was thousands literally of parents who attended the meetings and spearheaded this action. They were every background, every religion, every race, creed, and color. I mean, there were even gay people on the parent side saying these are two young children, and this is indoctrination, not education. And so, I mean, look, I don't, I'm not 100%, on either side in this particular argument. But I will say this: parental rights. Every parent should have the right of opting their children out of curriculum that they believe goes against their faith or their religious beliefs. So the bottom line is, every parent, whether they're gay or straight, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whatever, every parent has the right to decide for their children. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're a parent who willingly gives up the responsibility and the right of raising your child to the state or the school board, shame on you.
Right. It is correct that mothers and fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that families know children better. And I think history has established that very well when you go to other countries that have tried to have schools that truly were openly, very blatantly, were instruments of the state, where they taught children, essentially they viewed themselves as the parents. And when you look at what has happened to those societies throughout history, the Hitler Youth is the most obvious example that comes
to mind. The Red Brigade in China.
Absolutely. The records of those schools and the records of what happened to the societies as that generation grew up is not positive. And I believe that the Constitution is very clear, which of course is what the Supreme Court does, is it doesn't deal with the right or wrong of issues. It deals with, is this in line with the Constitution, or is it not in line with the Constitution? And so I believe that it was very clear in this case, as far as how the justices felt, that it was a large majority opinion that it is not in line with the Constitution to have that curriculum with children, and not the parents allowed to be able to withdraw their children from it.
And the Supreme Court was very clear. The school district has every right to present curriculum that they deemed to be appropriate. Mm-hmm. And if they want to continue to push these books, they certainly can. But they have to give parents the right, which is fair. That's fair. If you're going to force parents to make their children attend classes that they have religious exceptions on, then it's tyranny. And the arrogance of these school systems and these school boards who think they know better than parents on what the children need, it's legendary. I mean,
To your point, it was really interesting to hear, even though I did not go to any of where the rallies were, what have you, but I spoke to people who were there. When you listen to what they say, it really was, as another person stated, this really is a 90-10 issue, where 90% of the population is in agreement with the parents on this one. And you are correct. It's all across the spectrum. I mean, it has, over time, it has surprised me how many times I've run across LGBT individuals who actually are in agreement with how the many school districts are treating children in regards to LGBT issues. So my experience has been that this is a 90-10 issue.
It's an interesting argument, though.
Yes.
I will say this, that group of parents was made up of different political backgrounds as well. We didn't mention that, but it needs to be mentioned. Those parents were Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and they all formed together. We figured out a way to unify the country, haven't we, Ethan?
I never
mess with our kids, and we're going to unify.
I never thought about it that way, but you are correct.
They messed with the children of Montgomery County, and that largely liberal, majority liberal constituency said, oh, no, you're not. You're not going to mess with our kids. You are not going to take our parental rights from us. We don't care who you are. This is not Soviet Union or Red China or the Khmer Rouge. You're not taking our children. We're going to raise them how we see fit, and more power to them. Good for you, Montgomery County parents, and Mahmood.
Absolutely. And it may very well be the case that the most unifying issue across the political spectrum currently is the issue of is it parents who control the destiny of their children, or is it the government? And to your point, I actually think that it very well may be the most unifying political issue that Americans believe it should be the parents.
And the more unity, the better. As we've talked about before, I believe that we're better together. Democrats, Republicans, independents, we come together, we work out our issues. We agree to disagree, which you can do here at Mid-Maryland Votes. We agree to disagree, and then we have a soft drink or a beer or some taquitos, which Ethan and I are going to enjoy in just about 2 minutes.
Yes.
Anything else to add up, Ethan?
No, I just think that it was a fascinating and historic Supreme Court case that just occurred.
And if you're a parent of a child in America, you won big. The Supreme Court decided that your rights are more important than what the school board tells you that you can do. And that's always a good thing in America.
Yes.
Hey, thanks again for joining us on Mid-Maryland Votes. If you liked our podcast, why not share it with somebody? Maybe they're going to enjoy it too. You just never know, right? And we'll see you on the next episode of Mid-Maryland Votes. This has been Mark Flynn.
And Ethan Lowen.
We'll see you next time.
That's it for this episode of Mid-Maryland Votes. Whether you agree or not, we're glad you listened. Our goal isn't to change your mind, but to open it. Here we value conversations over confrontations, ideas over insults. Democracy works best when we speak and listen with respect. Join us next time as we explore the issues that matter, one civil conversation at a time. Until then, stay informed, stay kind, and stay involved. Thank you.